Hi everyone. Welcome to today's video and my channel and blind reviews, or welcome back if you are not new. Welcome in general. So today I am discussing Olga Dies Dreaming. This is a book I read for a what was it? For the Envision College Success Program book club. It was the selection for, I believe, November. So yeah, I believe it was November. So if you want to know more about the Envision College Success Program, I will link it in the description below. But this is that selection. However, before we begin, consider subscribing to my channel and also, turning on notifications so you're aware when I release videos. Also consider subscribing to my blog, which will be in the description, along with a post for the Olga Dies Dreaming review. That way, because I go more in depth there than I do here. So if you want a more in-depth review, check out my blog post and consider subscribing to my blog, where you can find some book reviews as well as some of my creative writing. So if since I talk about my writing twice a week and you want to know what it is, if you want to know what it is, my blog is in the description for you. Now to your regularly scheduled review, Olga Dies Dreaming. So I want to start off with some content warnings. Let me read them off the post I wrote because I can't remember all of them. I can only remember a couple. One sec. I'm just going to read them off the post I wrote because there are a bunch of content warnings here that need to... I go very in depth on this in my blog post, and I'm not sure if I'm going to discuss them here. But if I do, I will give a second verbal content warning. But the content warnings when reading this book is psychological abuse, a heavy emphasis on being gay and Latinx culture, including the use of a slur, and though not explicit, sexual assault. So like those are like the content warnings that we have. I think I'm gonna keep this video as short as possible. I actually do not want to discuss this in... I don't want to have some of these conversations, if we're being honest, completely. So I may not go in depth completely like I did in my blog post. But if you're curious about what I wrote in my blog post about some of the things that I talk about, where I go into some spoilers a little bit, into some broad spoilers, I will leave that. I will leave that in the description. If I choose to go into spoilers later, though, and I decide to talk about it as I'm reviewing this book, I will let you know, and I will give you another verbal content warning. And by the way, this is another video, like in my Valentine's Day video, where after I read a synopsis, I will probably be playing with my fidget spinner to minimize my fidgeting. So here's the synopsis for this book. It's 2017, and Olga and her brother Pedro, and then in quotes it says Prieto, Acevedo, are bold-faced names in their hometown of New York. Prieto is a popular congressman representing their gentrifying Latinx neighborhood in Brooklyn, while Olga is the Tony wedding planner for Manhattan's power brokers. Despite their alluring public lives, behind closed doors, things are far less rosy. Sure, Olga can orchestrate the love stories of the 1%, but she can't seem to find her own until she meets Mateo, who forces her to confront the effects of long-held family secrets. 27 years ago, their mother, Blanca, a young lord turned... Whoa, what? Blanca, a young lord turned radical, abandoned her children to advance a militant political cause, leaving them to be raised by their grandmother. Now, with the winds of hurricane season, Blanca has come barreling back into their lives. Set against the backdrop of New York City in the months surrounding the most devastating hurricane in Puerto Rico's history, Olga Dies Dreaming is a story that examines political corruption, familial strife, and the very notion of the American dream, all while asking what it really means to weather a storm. So, for a debut novel, this is great. Like, this is amazing. For debut novel, this this is great. It's amazing. Um, the prose is really good. I really like it. It's accessible. It's really easy to understand. Another thing I will say of the writing, since I'm talking about the writing, is that the way this book is written is you have a couple of different point of views, but including the mom's point of view. And one of my favorite parts about the way this is written is that the mom's point of view is delivered in letter form. So we actually get her point of view through the letters that she sent her children, especially Olga. So we get to see that, and we get to see how what she has done has affected them. So that is one of my favorite parts about writing it. The way it's written, it's actually very interesting. The way it reads, the pacing is really good. It's a really tight pacing. It's a medium pace, I'd say. It doesn't really pick up. It's usually pretty slow in that, but it's good. I kind of like the way that this is written because it builds up so perfectly to the story. Like, the build up is amazing. And where did I put my fidget spinner? Oh, I was just getting prepped for the next video because I'm recording the same day these couple reviews. So I like the pacing because it's slow, but it kind of works for the kind of story we're trying to tell here, or we're trying to read here. The themes, there is so many themes in this book, and it is surprising how well they're, like, even though there are a lot of themes, they're kind of all related. It is surprising how well the author like tightens them up and discusses them. There are themes about being, again, like there's like themes about being gay, a gay man in Latinx culture. There are themes of politics. There's also themes of abandonment, and even the abuse, the psychological abuse. There are so many themes in this book, and I'm gonna talk about them briefly, but not super deep like I went through in my blog post, because I don't feel extremely comfortable over talking about it as deeply as I went through in my blog post. But one of the things that I think that it portrays very well is the hypocrisy, if we're being honest, of Latinx culture. Listen, I am someone who is Latinx, and I love my people, but I think it's good practice. I find it to be good practice to acknowledge that while your culture can be good in certain areas, they can be bad too. And while I love being Latinx and all that stuff, there are a couple of things that I honestly find embarrassing, and that I do find that it's reason to be ashamed of certain things. And one of those things is the way that the sexism that comes with being the sexism and the toxic masculinity that come with it. Sexism being the gender role, not just the gender roles, but in general the way they think of women. But there are some, like, there's always the way that women are portrayed, and Like there's even one where it's like a reality show. Uh, Olga was in a reality show, and they portrayed her as like every like the way that they think Latinas should be, and it's just like irritating. But there are so many interesting things in that area. So um, we have Pedro is the example of the way it's portrayed. He is a good example of how uh, the Latinx culture views gay men. This involves usually questioning their masculinity, saying that they sort of are more feminine. They call them kind of like women. They call them a slur. They in the story even uses a slur that I personally refuse to use and say. Like I despise this. So I refuse to say it personally, and I'm someone who is against everything they have said in the toxic masculinity that they are portraying. They do question it a lot in this, and it is even used to a point to blackmail him into accepting certain things that he wouldn't have normally accepted to do. There is uh, Olga specifically has a very interesting. She is a very interesting character. I kind of liked reading her character because she kind of goes through. She there there's a lot of things that I think she tends to go through that that she kind of talks about, and a lot of her life is guided by her mother's manipulation, uh, in a way like expert manipulation, if we're being honest, because like all the abuse, that the psychological abuse continues even after she's gone. There is so much like she listen, manipulation, all it really takes to lie, deceive, and manipulate is know one thing. There you start with some truth, and that is what the mom did. She started with truth, and then she psychologically abused her children, and you find out how bad it really is. So like a lot of the things that she does are guided by that. But I also want to say another thing that I want to say that I found really interesting related to the characters, because I'm talking about the themes, but I think I need to talk about the characters as well to do this. The characters are great. They're three-dimensional characters, and they fit such an interesting. They have such interesting lives, and I love them. And what's interesting about these characters is this: it's great when in a book you see yourself, and when you get to see yourself in a book, it feels amazing. But these characters are so three-dimensional that I related to the psychological abusive mother. I hated it so much when I saw this. I hated it. And I'm not gonna discuss too much of why, but the basics that I want to discuss is, again, it runs back to the way society sees women, and especially in Latinx society, the way they kind of talk about each other, and the way that they are constantly like people are trying to control them. And it has to do with the way that she acted in certain areas, especially when she like left her children. She mentions that she felt like she was stuck in a box, and and she felt too small, and that is the thing that comes up. Now when it comes to Blanca, it's very easy, like really easy, to be mad at her, and it's very easy to blame her for everything. But I found myself sympathizing with her a little bit, because she tells Olga, like things along the lines of, you know, your generation doesn't have to worry about, you no longer have to worry about the things I used to. Things have changed. I also like the fact that a woman from a different generation kind of acknowledges things have changed and they're not the same as what they used to be like for me. It's great because I also, as femme presenting, I struggle with how my perception with people perceiving me and the way they think I should be doing this and that. And it is irritating. Okay, it is irritating. It is annoying. But I get it, right? So one of the things that she says is you don't have to worry about the things that I used to. You don't have to have children, and you don't have to worry about waking up to, you don't have to like get married and or wake up to the hungry cries of a baby. You don't have to do that anymore. You can be more. This was so validating to read, even if it came from a psychological abuser. The reason this was so validating for me as a reader is because when I talk to people, I wrote a poem, by the way, recently called A Selfish Choice about this. And the poem, while it sounds, I haven't shared it in this channel yet. I'm hoping to share it. Maybe by the time that this video's out, I'm hoping to have shared a couple of poems because I have not shared some. I've only shared one poem, and I want to share some of my other poetry. But A Selfish Choice is a poem I wrote about the fact that I don't want any biological children, and that I might be willing to adopt like one child, but like I do not want under any circumstances biological children, because I just don't want them at all, especially babies. I don't even want to raise a baby. I do not want them for several reasons, which I will not get into. And I wrote about that, even though it sounds like when you read it, like my friend has interpreted that it sounds like I either witnessed or was in a toxic relationship. So, you know, it happens, right? That's the way it's written because of the way I wrote it. But it is interesting because when I tell certain members of my family that I don't want to have children, they're like, you need to have children. And the reasons they give me are extremely selfish, and in my opinion, the wrong reasons to bring children. One of them being like, one of them outright told me that the reason that most people think about having children is because of, you know, when you get older, they're obligated to help you, like they're gonna help you, whatever. Children are not really obligated to help you, especially if you're a bad parent. If you are a bad parent, they're not gonna be willing to help you. They're just gonna be like, I don't care about you, fuck you. Like, if you're not the best parent, they're going to do that. And not everybody can be a good parent. So it minimizes the fact that certain people cannot be parents, and it minimizes the fact that people don't want to be parents. One of the problems that I think the society still has is that it stigmatizes people who want to be child free. I am someone who they're just like, you know, what are you gonna do with, you know, if you don't have children? It's like, it's bad. It's not bad. If you don't have children, you have so many opportunities to do what you want to do. If we're being honest, having children would take away my freedom of things that I would want to do, and I have to be like, oh wait, but I can't do this because my child. Oh wait, no. Children would be at least biological children. Adopted, I feel like if I have, at least not now, but like if I have a biological child that I give birth to, it would be a burden to me because I would have to go through the 9-month process, and I'm a coward when it comes to pain. But also, raising them from newborn to adult would be a nightmare when they're babies specifically, which is why if I adopt a child, I plan to adopt them older because it would be easier for me. But if I have a child that I have to raise from day one, it would be a nightmare. But if I was, say, raising a child who is like 5 years old, I would be okay with it. Yes, I still would have to be like, if I want to do something, consider that I have a child. But that's okay because I willingly took that responsibility. And it's not going to be pressured because other people are like, you need to have kids, right? But if I willingly took a responsibility to raise a child that's like 5 years old, that's okay. I took that responsibility and I have to take it, and that's fine. But it'll be easier for me because they're older and they can talk, and they might know the kind of clothes they like, the kind of toys they like. It would be a little bit easier. But from day one, from Me giving birth to them, no. I'm likelier to give that child up for adoption. Even though people have told me, like, you need to have your own biological children. There's also a stigma that seems to go around that adopted children and biological children are different because supposedly biological ones are better. I don't think this is the case, and that is an insult to every child, especially children that are waiting to be put in a family. That is an insult, and I hate it. So I like the acknowledgement. I felt validated. I like the acknowledgement that things have changed and that you don't have to have children anymore, and there is nothing forcing you to have children except society wanting to push that on you. But there's nothing outright forcing you to have children, and you should always take that into account and be aware that you have more opportunities now. So I felt extremely validated by the psychological abuser, and I felt very uncomfortable about it, okay? I felt so uncomfortable about it. So as I said, the characters in general are good. Individually, they're amazing. And we also have awesome family dynamics. Honestly, reading this made me think, yep, this is a Latinx family. This is how they go. All the gossiping, all the wanting to get in your business, all that stuff. No, yeah, they'll do it. That'll be them. I can see it. I can see that would be them. So, that'd be them. I love the family dynamics. The family dynamics are my favorite. There is a bit of a romantic plot line again with Mateo, and it's fine. I don't really have that much to say about it. It's okay. It's not a big part of the story. It's just fine. Overall, it's a good story. I enjoyed it. I read it for my book club with Envision's College Success Program. If you are a college student who is blind or visually impaired, the College Success Program might be a good resource for you. You get to be connected to a mentor. You can, and that mentor can help you out with with different things, especially regarding college. There are these meetups that we have twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, and you can, if you basically sign up with the Success Program, you will have access to those. You will have access to the book club, and again, you have access to connect to a mentor, and they have plenty of resources to help you, and stuff like that. So if you want to learn more about Envision's College Success Program, I will leave a link to their page. But it was a good story. It felt kind of like reading a soap opera with all the drama that was in it, but it felt like reading a good soap opera, like the classics from like the late 90s and the early 2000s classics. Like it really felt like I was watching a classic soap opera that I would enjoy. So, like, yeah, it's enjoyable. If you want to see my more in-depth thoughts on this book, my blog post will be linked in the description. I do go in depth, and I do discuss a bunch of the things in the blog. I give content warnings when I discuss specific things that I think are going to be triggering during the post. So if something doesn't fit you, if you don't want to read about something, you will find a content warning that will tell you how many paragraphs to skip. I'm still on the process. I have to edit it and make sure I have some of the things. I usually say the next few paragraphs or something, but in one of them I definitely said skip like the next 2 paragraphs. So I do give content warnings and give you a number of paragraphs to skip so that you can skip the things you don't want to talk about, you don't want to read about, because it might be triggering for you. So I do have a very in-depth blog post that's almost, I don't remember how many words it is, but it's in the 1,000-word mark. So I do have that. So yeah, keep an eye out. Not keep an eye out, but it'll be out. But if you want to read it, it'll be available to you in my description. You can see it. But in the meantime, have you read Olga Dies Dreaming? If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I want to discuss. I especially want to know if you are Latinx. Did this book resonate with you in any way? Did you find anything like interesting about it? What did you think about it? I think for the author's debut novel, this was really good, and it tackled so many subjects, and it did it really, really well. So I appreciated it for that. So if you have any thoughts, please let me know. I want to hear everything. I want to know everything. Hi, I hope you enjoyed this review. I had a lot of fun recording this, I will say that. And it was a great book to read. I loved it. It was great. I still, you know, kind of remember it now as I am recording this, this review. It was great. So I had a great time reading it. Hope you enjoyed it, the review. And let me know if you plan to read it. And if you have read it, let me know your thoughts. I want to see this in the comments. In the meantime, consider subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications so you're aware when I release videos. Also consider subscribing to my blog in the description. Again, Envision Scholar Success Program will be linked in the description, as well as the blog post where I give a more in-depth review. So you can look into that. And yeah, you can also find some of my writing there as well. So consider subscribing there. And yeah, with that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Until next time, consume stories. Bye.